So how do you even follow that up? Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with Delicious in Dungeon, episode 18. Yeah, it's like after last episode with how big that was, how do you follow it up? How do you go from there? Because like I said last time, that is like the episode. That is like the moment of this series. That like amongst everything I've seen online for this show, almost everything has been centered around that episode. And specifically the first half of it for obvious reasons. So it's like the fact that this is like the defining moment of at least this first season for the fan base, where do you go from there? We have like quite a few episodes left. Where do you continue off of something like that? We have our three different parties split back up. We're continuing to follow the main one that we've been following. So, where do you go from there? Like, obviously, we're still trying to get Fallon back. That's still the goal. But what are we going to do now? What's the plan? And in terms of not just in terms of like what happens within the course of the story, but for the writing of the story, you have this big moment that kind of defines things and is kind of the moment that the fan base latches onto so heavily. And it's like, what can you possibly do next that could even consider one upping that? And there's been various shows where they do something at a certain point and nothing upstages it. Nothing becomes better. It's just that moment is the highlight of the series, and it may not happen at the end. It might happen like in the middle, and there's plenty of stuff that happens after that's just not as good, but still good, but not quite on the same level. And I'm wondering if that's going to be like this. Because I don't see how anything else in this, at least season, can top this. Like, the only thing I can think of off the top of my head that would even have a chance is like a full on major battle with the Mad Mage. We've had like a smaller battle, but like, I mean, like a full major battle that like really showcases his abilities. That would be something. But I don't think we're going to get that yet. I think he'll probably appear more times, but I don't think we're going to get like a major battle with him. We might have a confrontation, but that's about it. I don't think anything in the rest of the season is going to surpass this. So it's a matter of, if that's the case, what else are they just going to do in general? Excuse me. What can they do after that to keep us invested for the rest of the season? I don't know. I don't know. Because going back to just like doing like random little things in the dungeon with various monsters, I don't think that's enough. Like, after that, I don't think that's enough to really keep people invested. And I mean, obviously, the audiences for a manga and for an anime are very different. And when this originally was written in the manga, I'm sure like things were handled differently. I don't know if this part was at the end of a chapter of a volume, etc., etc. I don't know how this was paced exactly comparatively. But the audiences are different and they expect different things in terms of that kind of stuff. So I wonder how that's going to compare in that regard too. Because I assume this is going along with the story as it goes in the manga pretty straightforward. I'm sure there's not too many big changes or like things being reordered or anything. Um, so with those different pacings in mind, where is the story going to go to this point? Because the manga didn't have to worry about like seasonal stuff like this. That's the thing. It like has volumes and chapters and whatnot, but not like seasonal um, releases. So at this point, it's like, what more can you do in this season? And what more is like coming next? Because usually, most shows, even when adapting from another series, will try to end the season on a specific point, on a specific note, something big, something impactful. And anime's been going long enough to where a lot of manga creators will even pace some of their manga in a way that has like these big moments every so often so that if and when adapted into anime, they can figure out the pacing to make that work. But that's not always the case. Some mangaka also just write it the way they want to write it. And I mean, they all do to a degree, but you get what I'm saying here. So I'm wondering if the writer of this, and I don't know when the original manga of this came out, um, was like anticipating or hoping for an adaptation, and if there is something else that's going to happen that would allow a good point of end for a season, or if things are going to have to be adjusted a bit in terms of the adaptation to allow for that point to end at a valid moment. Because I could have seen last episode being a season finale. Absolutely could have seen last episode be a season finale. But instead, we have more. That was only episode 17. We have like what, 24 to 26 episodes this season? We have more to go, and I just, like I said, I don't know where we're going to end or how we're going to finish this off. But clearly, I mean, it's interesting me enough. Interesting? No, that's the wrong word. It's investing me enough into the story and things that I am wondering about this so heavily that I am able to like really discuss and think about this as much as I am. And that shows just how into the series I have been. And there's a lot of things that I'm glad that it did and things I'm glad it didn't do in regards to this. I'm glad it hasn't just repeated the formula after Fallon was kidnapped again. Or, well, kidnapped, quote unquote. Um, I'm glad it didn't just start repeating the formula. Instead, started like doing a whole bunch of new stuff and introducing a bunch of new characters and parties and whatnot. And I'm glad that we are upping the stakes here. There's a lot of things that I hope that this series can accomplish. But the thing is, you do need to continue to raise things. That's kind of a necessary element of any show, of any manga, even. When you have a full series like this, you need to continuously raise the stakes. And obviously, the Mad Mage is like the end game. So we're not going to have like the true final battle with him anytime soon. But it's like we have a lot to go, I feel like, and I'm just wondering like how the stakes are going to be raised. Because we've already fought a dragon, we have the entire thing going on with Fallon. And I would actually say the Fallon stuff, the Fallon Chimera, is higher stakes than the dragon even. So it's like, where do you go next? 2 dragons? I don't know. We're going to get on with this, though, see what this episode has in store for us, and hope for the best. I don't expect anything big this episode. Like, this is definitely going to be a little lighter after what just happened. But we'll see. So, let's get on with it. Let's see what we have in store. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. We have gaming content as well on our secondary channel, Princess of Gaming. Every single day we upload parts of Baldur's Gate 3, and every other day is Horizon Forbidden West. But on Saturdays we also get to Nier Automata. Don't forget to click the link in the description for today's reaction. I redirect everything on the channel just because of copyright. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click that like button. It helps out the channel and allows me to get more of this awesome content to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get on with today's reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, like I said, this episode was definitely going to be a lot lighter because of the big shit that just happened last time. But this was also different in another way, because it wasn't about fighting a monster, but it was more about observational skills. It was more about like seeing through an illusion by pointing out these little differences and everything. And I thought that was really cool. That was really neat as a concept. Because most of these monsters, they fight. They have to battle in some way, shape, or form. But this one was more about intellect, more about, again, observation. And getting to see that here, getting to see them taking down an enemy through that is pretty cool. Although, in the end, mind you, Marcel did blow the shit out of that nine-tailed wolf. Just popped its head like a balloon with that fire spell. So, I guess in the end, there was still some level of fighting. But for most of it to be more of this observational stuff is interesting. I also like how Laios's were the easiest to recognize the difference with. One of them was way too big. One of them was way too dopey. And the other one was kind of pretty, like weirdly pretty. It's like his were like so obviously fakes, but the others, at least to the characters, weren't as obvious. I think Senshi's were extremely obvious. Cutting it down to the 2 there, between the real Senshi and the fake, it's like, they even pointed it out in the episode. It's like he looked too, quote-unquote, handsome, although I do think Senshi's handsome. Which everyone also echoed in the series. So, like, everyone agreed with that. Everyone noted that he was handsome, that they found him handsome. But he is also super dopey. Like, he absolutely is dopey looking. You can be dopey and handsome at the same time. But the more serious face, like, just did not look right at all on Senshi. With Chilchuck, the biggest difference was the hair and then, like, the scarf and all. But the hair was, like, the real noticeable one. And yeah, the one had a little bit messier hair, and then you, of course, had the bangs pointing in different directions. And yeah, Chilchuck's hair, like, whether you remember which way his bangs are pointing or not, is not, like, quite that messy. It's more, like, flat and, like, hanging down in a way. So his was easy to tell as well. Marcel's was the hardest to tell between the final 2. And, like, I'm, like, watching and seeing how they interact and everything, and it's like, I thought it was the one with the hair down, and I was wrong on that. It was the one whose hair was, like, kind of tied into, like, the little pigtails. I was wrong. But it also makes sense, because all of my choices were all the A choices. So it would make sense that at least one of them would have to be a B choice, right? But they were the closest by far. And the things they were saying, the thing is, as it was also pointed out, both of them were saying things that I could believe Marcel would say. Hell, like both of their reactions to like the harpy eggs and stuff, I could believe. Like Marcel, like being grossed out by that and being against eating humanoid stuff. It's like, yeah, we know Marcel has always shared that opinion, but also with everything that's happened with Fallon, and we know how close she and Fallon are. I also believe that she would say something like, you know, at this point, I'll do anything to help Fallon. So it's like it's just those little touches, and the way that Laios ended up figuring it out in the end are like things I wouldn't have actually noticed or thought about. Even though, like, when you actually find out what they are, it's like, oh yeah, that's obvious. That feels like that should have been like one of the biggest keys to figuring it out. Like Chilchuck sitting on the box. Yeah, Chilchuck has a fear of mimics. They're like the one creature that really freaks him. Well, multiple creatures freak him out, but the one that really freaks him out that he has like a personal history with. It's like, yeah, Chilchuck would absolutely never sit on the boxes like that. Or Senshi disturbing the ecosystem of these creatures for like his own gain. Yeah, he would never do that. It's stuff like that, and it's like, I wouldn't have thought of that. But it makes so much sense. And it's one of those cases where Laios is clearly more observational than I am. Clearly, I'm the problem here. I'm just not at that level of observational. Like I can notice little things about their appearances and stuff, but when it comes to actual observational things, like really deep level of observational things like that, I can definitely miss it sometimes. Sometimes I'll notice it. There has been times like when I've watched shows and movies and stuff, even on the channel and everything, you might have noticed like I'll notice something that it's like, oh, it's actually kind of wild that I noticed that I saw that detail. And sometimes I put things together really well. And then other times I'm an idiot. It's like it's almost like it's one extreme or the other. Sometimes I'm really smart and observational, and sometimes I'm just fucking dumb. But I feel like that's kind of the way it is for most people. I would imagine. I feel like most people would have those kind of extremes in terms of like guessing things or in terms of noticing things with characters and with storytelling and various things like that. I think most people would like have examples where they could like, oh, I'm watching this show and sometimes I get things right, sometimes I get things wrong. Um, I know Alicia X Life, another reactor here on YouTube. I know she goes through that a lot with like One Piece. In her One Piece reaction, she even brings this up quite a few times, where she'll even say, "It's like sometimes I'm just really right, sometimes I'm really wrong," and it's like, yeah, that tends to happen, and it's been the same with me for shows like that too. It's I feel like a pretty reasonable experience to have. But at the end here, we had a new character show up. This shadowy ninja figure in like this full body cloak, except for their face, comes out of nowhere and is threatening Marcel. And from what we can tell, they're the one who stole the bag of rice and everything. Also, they're kind of adorable looking, like just in terms of the face, kind of cute. We know nothing about them yet, but it looked like the maybe this is the Ruby fan in me talking, but it looked like the hood they were wearing had cat ears. And maybe that's just because of me being a Ruby fan, um, with Blake and everything, and her having the bow and all. But it's like, what am I supposed to think looking at that? Two like little, unless they have horns, which I guess is possible. But I don't know. This seems to be going with a lot of like standard fantasy races or the equivalent of. And they don't look like any kind of standard fantasy race that would have horns like that. But it's like just the size and shape of them and the position of them also. It's like I don't know. But it just made me think of cat ears. Also, the way the duplicates were introduced in this episode, like, was very clearly something going on, because it's like, oh, Laios grabs Chilchuck's hand. Chilchuck grabs Senchi's hand. Senchi grabs Marcel's hand. Then Marcel grabs someone's hand. It's like, wait a minute. No, that's too many people. What is happening here? Whose hand did she grab? And then Laios is shown holding two hands, and it's like, what is happening here? Whose hands are he holding? I did observe that right away. So you got to acknowledge that. I at least noticed that right away. Um, this was good though. I like this episode. I'm very interested to find out who this new character is next time. Um, do not tell me any spoilers. Obviously, I'll wait to see how that all goes. Cause yeah, I don't, at least from what we can see here, recognize this character at all. Um, but considering, like I kind of said in the pre-thoughts, most of what I see people posting about with this series tends to be from last episode. I mean, that kind of makes sense. But that means even more so than ever, no spoilers, please. Do not spoil me on who this character is, anything about them. I want to find that out as I continue to watch. Hell, maybe we'll have a new party member. That could be interesting. Or even if it's a temporary one, that could be cool too. Or maybe they're a villain. I don't know. Yeah, honestly, with this series, I could see it going either way. But for the time being, tell me your thoughts down below. Also, tell me which of these like fakes do you think were like comes from who? Because it said like in the episode, like they were based off of each other's perceptions or something. So like, which one of them saw Marcel that way, as the weirdly like JoJo-esque Marcel? Who sees Marcel that way? Please tell me it's Chilchuck. Please tell me it's Chilchuck. I could see it. Chilchuck's absolutely the one who sees Laios as massive like that. Absolutely. I would be interested to see what like these fake versions would look like for like Fallon though. That could be pretty cool. But yeah, tell me your thoughts down below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.